How's it going, everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome to another review of the new Pokemon series, which I'm just going to be calling Pokemon 2019 from now on. At least that's what everyone's calling it, so I'm going to call it Pokemon 2019 too. Anyways, today I'm going to be reviewing the second episode of this new series, which I thought was a very solid episode. Now, before I get into the actual review, if you like this video and if you like my content, be sure to like and subscribe, as I cover the Pokemon anime pretty much on a weekly basis, and I cover all the episodes on this channel. So, yeah, if you like my content, I strongly encourage you to like and subscribe. So anyways, the first thing I kind of want to talk about is the music in the new series. I didn't really mention it in last week's review, but I just want to say right now that I actually really like it. It's definitely different for Pokemon, but it works. Now, if you didn't know this already, the My Hero Academia composer is composing the new Pokemon OST, or the soundtracks for the episodes now. And it was very solid in this episode. I believe the wild Pokemon theme from the Sword and Shield games was played when Ash met Lugia, or faced Lugia, and it was really cool. I really like it. Not that the previous OSTs were bad or anything, but I think it works with this series, especially since they're going in a new direction with the anime. So I like it a lot. I approve. In addition to that, we also have some really cool animation in this episode, showing off between the battles that were going on with the raid battles with Lugia, and then Ash's brief battle with Pikachu versus Lugia. And then when Lugia took Ash and Go basically on a little trip through the sky and then under the sea, the animation was just very fluid. It was very awesome to see, and I was very impressed with it. Now, at the start of this episode, it kind of just reminds me of the previous episode, and of course the first episode, with Ash just sleeping in again, of course, and he ends up breaking his Pokeball alarm, and is going to be late because he's actually going off to Vermilion City with Professor Oak because there's a new laboratory that's being opened up. And yeah, I like the continuity here as we see Ash's Alola League trophy, the Mask Royal statue, and then a bunch of other, like his Orange Island trophies there. He's got his badges from his previous regions there. It's just a bunch. I just love the continuity here. It's the new series acknowledging all of Ash's accomplishments over the years, or I guess months, or whatever the anime considers time, and I don't know. Ash is still 10 somehow, and he's done all this. But yeah, anywho, I'm getting off track. But I thought it was very interesting how they're going to go see this new laboratory that's opening up, and Dahlia and Mr. Mime actually tag along. And Ash ends up going up to this laboratory, and before he can get up there, he runs into a Yamper, who doesn't really like him very much, and ends up shocking him as Ash tries to hug him. And I gotta say, I know a lot of people weren't big on the Sun and Moon comedy, but I think you might want to get used to it, because it seems like some of the comedy from Sun and Moon is kind of leaking over here. And I think it's fine. There's a few funny faces in this episode. It's not super overbearing, so it seems like they learned maybe some lessons not to go overboard like they did sometimes in Sun and Moon. But yeah, it still has a lot of the same comedy elements from Sun and Moon. Ash is still very goofy like he was in Sun and Moon here. So yeah, I like this scene here. And Koharu, I'm just going to pronounce it right because I called her Kohara in the last review. Koharu shows up, and she sees Ash basically dead on the ground, and she doesn't want anything to do with that, and she walks right away. But anyways, it looks like the new professor that's there, or Koharu's father, is doing a presentation, and actually tells them, oh yeah, in about 20 minutes there's actually might be a legendary Pokemon, or a rare Pokemon showing up, and that's when everyone runs out, and Ash runs out himself. In the meantime, Koharu gets a text from Go, and he's basically saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna be late. I actually, I discovered a, new thing. There's something legendary I'm gonna be coming across. And I like how Koharu is very moody, and she's just like, Go is always like this. And I like this whole scene here, the whole sequence here, because on one end you have Ash that's rushing over there. He ends up running into a Snorlax, call back to the original games, when he's on his way to go see this rare Pokemon. And in the meantime, Go is, also looking out for the rare Pokemon, and ends up, he ends up being really close, ends up running into a Psyduck, as he's very confused as to, oh, is this the rare Pokemon? But it turns out there's a big cloud that forms, in which a Lugia shows up out of the cloud, and I like how it's a reference to both the max raid battles from the Sword and Shield games and then the raid battles from Pokemon Go. And it was really cool to see all the trainers go up against Lugia, but Lugia pretty much tanks every attack from them. And that's when Ash shows up and attempts to battle Lugia, which Lugia's having none of that and pretty much swiftly defeats Ash pretty quickly. But Ash isn't giving up. As Lugia is trying to get away, Ash ends up catching up to him and jumping on the Lugia. And at the same time, Go does the same thing. He sees Lugia and he ends up jumping onto its tail. And that's when Lugia basically takes our two boys and Pikachu on a little ride through the sky and through the sea. And it seems like Lugia talks to Ash at this point, because when they're about to go into the water, they're about ready to crash. They're pretty much about ready to die. Ends up using an attack that, separates the water so that they can go right through it, and it creates a lot of good animation in this segment, I gotta say. And they kind of acknowledge later that, yeah, Lugia could have totally not done this, but it basically warmed up to the two boys and protected them by doing this. And yeah, it takes them on a little bit of a ride and ends up dropping them off in the middle of nowhere, and it takes them all day to get back to the lab. I thought that was kind of funny. But they get back to the lab and Koharu's not really having any of it. But, yeah, just like how they're just like crawling back after like basically getting back there all day, or running back there all day. And, yeah, I love this whole sequence here. It was really nice how everything flowed, and I like how Yamper just still doesn't like Ash at all. So, once they get into the lab, Go actually, the whole time that Go was on Lugia, he was basically recording or taking pictures, and gave this information over to the professor, or Koharu's dad. I can't remember his name off the top of my head at the moment, but he's pretty much super impressed by all of this, and that's when he makes Ash and Go research fellows, or special lab assistants. And Ash initially is a little bit not too thrilled with this, but then he basically tells them, yeah, I want you guys to go all over the world and discover Pokemon and report back to me. And, Ash sees this as a bit of an issue, or Ash's mom sees this as a little bit of an issue, because how is he going to commute back from Vermilion City to Pallet Town, like, all the time? So that's when the professor gives them a dorm room. And I just like how there's a little bit of a rivalry between Ash and Go already set up, and they're basically fighting amongst each other. They're friends, they're slowly becoming friends, but they're also kind of rivals at the same time, and they're fighting with each other. Especially who wants to get the top bunk or not. Koharu's not having any of it. And I like how Deli was like, well, Mr. Mime, I want you to keep an eye on Ash for me, along with Go. And so Mr. Mime is staying with them. So that was an interesting choice. So Mime, I guess, is not hanging out with Dahlia for the time being, or at least for some of this series. So, yeah. I'm actually kind of interested to see where this series goes and how they handle it. I'm hoping that they do a good job with it, because this episode, if this episode's the base the rest of the series off of, we're in for a really good ride. As a pretty much, I guess I can call this the official, it's not the official first episode, but the official first episode at present time, because last week's episode was a backstory. I gotta say, a very solid episode, beautiful animation, the OST is amazing. So I gotta give this episode a solid 9 out of 10. I love this episode. Great episode. So guys, what'd you think out there? Did you like this episode? Did you not like it? I am very curious to see I'm very curious to hear what you guys out there think about this episode. Getting tongue-tied over here because of how great this episode was. Anywho, if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you all next time, or later, or whenever. I don't know. I'm working on a long video that should be out later this week. So anyways, guys, have a great day.